It is strange how the quiet parts of life were never actually empty, just unnoticed. The absence of noise was never the absence of God. It only felt that way when expectation was louder than awareness. There is a kind of realization that does not arrive with emotion, but with stillness settling in the mind. You begin to notice that what once felt like silence was never silence at all. It was communication without pressure, presence without performance. Be still and know that I am God, Psalm 46:10. Not as a command echoing from a distance, but as something almost whispered into the weight of waiting, like the moment itself is holding you still long enough to recognize Him inside it. And without realizing it, you start to understand that God was never absent in the waiting. He was just not competing for attention. There is a different way He speaks, one that does not arrive like urgency, but like recognition. It feels like thoughts softening instead of forming, like resistance inside you loosening without explanation. And that thought sits quietly, not demanding agreement, only observation. You begin to notice how often clarity was mistaken for volume. Yet the most steady guidance never raised its voice. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. John 10:27. Not as a declaration to strive toward, but as an unfolding awareness that recognition was always meant to be natural, not forced. It changes how confusion feels, not as abandonment, but as unfamiliar language being learned in silence. There is a rhythm beneath uncertainty that does not rush to explain itself. And strangely, the longer you sit with it, the less you need explanations to feel held. It feels like God speaking in the space between thoughts, where fear usually tries to fill everything. But even fear grows quieter when nothing is feeding it. And something inside begins to settle there, not because answers arrived, but because presence became undeniable in a different form. There is a voice behind you saying, "This is the way, walk in it." Isaiah 30:21. Not ahead of you, not dragging you forward, but behind you, steady, consistent, already aligned with direction even when your mind feels lost. It starts to make sense why direction is often missed, not because it was missing, but because it was not loud enough to compete with anxiety. There is a kind of divine communication that does not interrupt your life, it threads through it. And the more you stop trying to force recognition, the more recognition begins to surface on its own. Not as an event, but as awareness returning. It feels like being slowly retuned to something you were always meant to hear. And after the fire, a still, small voice. 1 Kings 19:12. Not in the fire, not in the earthquake, not in the wind, but after them. When everything else stops trying to define meaning. That is where it becomes clear that God was never trying to overpower your thoughts. He was waiting for them to soften enough to notice Him within them. There is a different kind of knowing that does not come from explanation, but from recognition that keeps returning. Quietly, gently, without urgency. And slowly, what once felt like distance begins to feel like nearness that was never interrupted, only overlooked.